What are they going to solve?
Marvel Rivals, even if it's not a great game, people are going to play it. You're going to love it because you get to be the Spider-Man.
Cash grab. Just straight cash grab. Apex, get in on this shit.
Talk to me like I'm an idiot.
Right? You show up to work, and your boss just keeps fucking pointing you in a different direction.
All right, hello and welcome to the Esports Meta. I had to make sure my mic and settings were all correct, but got it all set. We're ready for a week of video game news, of esport news, a lot of stuff happening. Today's topics, we're going to talk about the grand finals of the MSI Midseason Invitational. Valve has a new arena shooter game coming out. They're about to join the fray with the other arena shooters, Overwatch-esque. And we've got some Overwatch news. Season 10 mid-season patch is saving tanks, question mark? A lot of people are saying so, but we're going to dive in and find out. But to dive in, I'm going to need help of some expertise, some fine cuisine of knowledge. And of course, the person to do that with me is Nicholas Layton. Nick, how you doing? Can you hear me?
I'm here to support. We're both terrible with mics this week.
Dude, this week with mics, I'm just like muting myself and just making sure I'm not sniffling and coughing. These summertime, springtime colds have really got us down. Yeah, sip some tea, man. Sip some tea.
It's not tea, but sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a cold beverage, but yeah.
The cold brew. But yeah, we're going to keep it cool. We're going to just kind of go through and make sure this is a good episode, have some fun talking about some esports and stuff. As far as our topics today, Nick, is there anything that's standing out to you? I know you watched a lot of the MSI. You and I have both talked about how this MSI has been one of the best league competitions in a long time. You've particularly really enjoyed it. We were talking about that last week, but in that difference, like, is there anything of these three topics that particularly you want to spotlight right now as we jump into everything?
It's about the Steam, the Valve Overwatch clone. I call it an Overwatch clone, but like whether or not it's going to be an Overwatch clone is like yet to be seen.
TBD.
Yeah, but like. I love Team Fortress 2. And so, like, I don't know if we're going to have, like, a crazy situation where we're going to have, oh, my God, spies. Like, the stuff would be crazy if there was, like, spies in Overwatch or something like that. So, I'm just jazzed about that one.
Just jump into Team Fortress 3.
Yeah, no, it'd be sick. That's what I'm thinking it's going to be is Team Fortress 3, so...
Well, I believe the information that we did see come through this week was a bit specific about what it is, how it's going. So we'll check in on that. But let's start with Grand Finals MSI. Does that sound good?
Yeah, we can start that. And, I'm not as thrilled now that it's all over.
Well, yeah, looking back on stuff, sometimes hindsight could be 2020. It was pretty exciting. It was exciting to go through it and watch it. I'm not a league player. I'm not a league watcher, esport watcher. I'll tap in every so often, but this was a lot of fun, a lot of cool banter, a lot of good games, a lot of good matchups. So we're going to start by going over the final part of the bracket. We'll give a little bit of a lead in, but we had the MSI bracket section of the tournament, and last week we had gotten to the point of the last three games. Lower bracket semifinal had just happened as we filmed that day, and then we were expecting to see the next day what was going on. In this situation, let me see if I can make a little bit of a better viewpoint here. Not too much, but generally speaking, we saw T1 over G2 Esports the day we filmed last week, which is what it is kind of thing. We didn't know who they were going to be playing in the next game because that required the winner, the loser of Gen G versus Billy. And it seems Gen G ended up pulling a 3-1 victor over there. Nick, feel free to stop me at any point if you want to talk about these games, but I'm just going to kind of walk through each point, like the scoreline, and then we'll go over like the prize pool and whatnot.
That's fine, man, because basically like it was a super fun time. Up until lower bracket semifinals. I did not enjoy the last three matches of MSI. They were extreme letdowns.
Well, why were they letdowns, my dude?
They were boring.
They're just boring?
They were not good viewership. They were like fine for like a person who's like really in the trenches for like League if you were watching like Chovy and you're watching like certain little micro things.
Yeah.
But like overall, it was it wasn't entertaining to watch. And like even some of the players weren't having fun playing the game.
Right. Let me bring us back to the double screen so I can prep us for this next thing. But like, it appears a little bit of a controversy with this is that some players were upset that, what is it, lane swapping, right? And like, Nick, I talk to me like I'm an idiot. Talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old who doesn't know anything about anything. What is lane swapping in League of Legends? Why is this player upset with it?
All right, so there's the five roles that are in League of Legends, right? And essentially, what this is it sacrifices one of your players, sacrifices their ability to play the game at all. I don't
understand, like, how does it do that?
All right, so this is all just overcome poor pick and ban phases. So they'll go through and I say poor pick and ban phases, but it's not. This is a result of good pick and ban phases, I guess. And so what happens is you'll get stuck with your picks, whatever you might think whatever you're going to pick, your AD, your top laner, and your support. And let's say the enemy guys picked better champions for your 2v2 matchup. And basically they picked champions that were a little bit too strong in the early game against your champions. So you're going to want to take your guys without them knowing, move them all the way up top because you don't agree on where you're going to start in the first place. It's just like a common rule. So they take their 2 guys up top and go against one person. That one person then is going to have to rotate out of that lane anyway, because the other team is going to have to move their 2v2 up there. And essentially it becomes a big Benny Hill game. Like you see, somebody goes up top. All right, well now they're going to go back down bot because the other team came back up top. And so the top laner, which is the one up out of the 3 players, because he's only one person, he's basically bullied the whole entire game into not playing it and just moving around the map as if he were a fucking cameraman. And it is not fun to watch.
Okay.
Whatsoever.
All right, so I think I understand it a little bit better. And not being an actual idiot, I can assume what lane swapping is when one player swaps their lane. I just wanted to know also, where's it coming from? What is it trying to accomplish? What is it doing? So if I understand it correctly, basically it's a strategy to use when you're at a perceived deficit from the pick ban phase to then try to maximize the player power or character power by gathering up all the resources from 2 different lanes at the price or cost of other players not doing shit, losing those benefits, losing that level up.
Kind of a more precise way of thinking about it is that you knowingly take a disadvantage going into the match, and to overcome that, you're going to just sacrifice one person. That one person just not really getting much, and he has to pick up scraps. So basically, he's it's a very frustrating thing. It's not something that you really practice as a top laner. It's not something that's very common. It used to be common a little bit more, but the game, I don't want to say it was less evolved. It was just more open.
Okay. How is it?
Some stuff.
Hey, Billy here. Wanted to take a quick minute to let you know a few different things. If you enjoyed the video so far, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps us out and it tells the algorithm to share it with more people. You can find the Esports Meta live every week on Twitch and YouTube. It's where we film the podcast or hang out, play games, and chat. If social media is more your vibe, check us out on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, or Twitter if you use Threads. Does anybody use Threads? This is a video game community that's excited to talk about esports, so jump into the conversation. Of course, you can find more videos like this here on YouTube. Just hit that subscribe button right there or there. Thanks for watching, and let's get back to the show.
Another sort of silly question, silly because I'm just going to say it like I'm a 5-year-old. How is it frustrating? How is it frustrating to watch? How is it frustrating to play as? Because I know, from my point of view, not really understanding all the intricacies and strategy of the play, I can assume some things, but I might not be able to tell the difference.
Easy way to think about it, right? You show up to work and your boss just keeps fucking pointing you in a different direction. You don't get to do anything. He said, go over there and take out the garbage. Before you were able to take out the garbage, he said, hey, come back over here, go back over this way. And then once you got over there, before you were able to touch something, he sent you back over the other way. So it's like this is essentially what's going on for him. It's just
Right.
It's just poor play pattern that leads to unfun environment for a player. And anytime that the player's not having fun, it's obvious that the viewer's not having fun. Like that's really what it's going to be. Like, I don't want to watch a pub stomp. I really don't like watching like 3-0s. Like most of the time in MSI, the 3-0s have actually been a lot closer than most like 3-0s and stuff like that. But
especially this year.
Yeah, with the lane swapping, it's like the reason why G2 lost. And with a game that has like pretty defined lanes and roles now in 2024, it's fair to say that it's like it really doesn't have a place in the game anymore because the game isn't really open as much as it used to be when it was a little bit like when it was used a little bit more.
Okay,
just in general.
I could see how that's frustrating and for the players and you know, even like you're saying for the viewership, you're basically watching somebody just highlight the map in places where people are because they're going from one corner. Let's do this corner to this corner on the vertical cam. But yeah, you're going from one side of the map to the other and you're just basically a vision and you're not really accomplishing anything. You're saying too, like it's a big reason, or at least what this player's expressing, a big reason why G2 lost to T1 in the lower bracket.
It's 100% the reason.
100%?
100% the reason. Like
All
that's
right.
why Broken Blade is pissed. Like because in like Broken Blade's opinion, like he's the top laner for G2.
Yeah.
He just didn't get to play against the top laner. He didn't play. So anybody going like, oh, the T1 top laner or like, you know, Gen G's top laner is better than Broken Blade. It's like, yeah, maybe, but he didn't really get to play against them. So you know, the game, it's not really. Like, some might argue that it's not really League of Legends, but we can all agree that it's just trash TV. It's just not good. Like, it's trash TV. I don't want to see it.
I know it might be a bigger conversation with it, but it sounds just like a strategy to the pick ban system amongst some other things. And like, if that's going to be, it's a player sort of sentiment strategy. So like, that's going to be a tough thing to change. Again, probably a bigger conversation, probably a bigger conversation for another time, if I could say my words clearly, which I just did. But I do have a question for you with this. G2 did it and they didn't do it well, or it didn't create enough value, and that's why they lost? Or did T1 do it?
They both, like, you have to do it, is the thing. Like, when someone lane swaps against you, you have to also try to recover that sort of thing. Because basically, like, let's say you have the disadvantage in lane with your ADC and your support, and you go to lane swap. That also means that I gave up my advantage if I don't lane swap, right? So now, like, I have to go follow this asshole because he decided, you know, we're playing up top now, and it's like it's part of the game, and like you have to play with it, but like it is one of the bigger symptoms of League is being held hostage in games you just don't want to fucking play. And Broken Blade was held hostage in these games, and he did not want to fucking play the game. And like I hate that in League of Legends.
I can see the sentiment a bit more when it's like you're forced to mirror it. When you're saying like if you don't lane swap when the other team lane swaps, you're just losing out. And even then, like, you're just getting boned because your team didn't want to do it. So like you might be trying to just maintain to 0 rather than get ahead in that. And that's like sky view, bird's eye view sort of ideology of the strategy from my perception. But yeah, I can definitely see why, you know, he didn't get to play the game and he's frustrated. I'm assuming then T1 initiated the swap. He had to follow suit and then was just bouncing back and forth on the call.
Yeah, like I didn't get to see the start of game 1. I came in a little bit late. But like T1 is just like they're good at like making decisions, but also G2 is also good at making decisions. But you can even hear it in the casters when you're watching the games. They have to stay mid to find out where the other person's going. It's like, no, like you're a bot laner. Get in the bot lane. And like, there's different ways that like we could solve this situation. It's not crazy, unsolvable. It's like, in my opinion, it's super solvable. But It just comes with like just buffing the top towers. It just means that like if there's two more people up there, then they take less damage.
Well, it seems to be a conversation the whole community is having, the competitive league community as well as the casual one or the competitive comp mode community. It seems to be getting a lot of attention. There's a few articles bouncing around about this. That's why we spotlit the one with the player specifically upset. But maybe that's something we can continue coming back to check and see what the community has to say. But let's wrap a little bit of what the score lines were here. Kind of just continuing that, Gen G took the semifinals and upper bracket against Billy 3-1 pretty forcefully here.
Yeah, look, it was 3-1, and then
3-1.
Like it was 3. Yeah, it said 3-1.
Okay.
Right. And then they had to face him again after Billy went down to the loser bracket. It just became a repeat. And what did I say it was going to be? what did I say was going to happen? I'm just throwing that out there that it was just going to be, number one and number one just fighting each other.
We'll check the tape, man. We'll check the tape. But yeah, it didn't seem like there was any sort of lower bracket upset. It didn't seem like there was any sort of shakeup. We did see a little bit, I felt like, but it didn't really last anything. Here's the scores in a little bit more of a linear way rather than the bracket style. T1 over Team Liquid Honda. Then we saw Gen G over Billy. T1 over G2, which is what we were just talking about with lane swapping and being a focus of lane swapping. Billy took it over T1, who brought him 3-2, which was kind of interesting. There was some magic in that game, it seems. I'm not sure if you caught that one, if you have anything to add on that game or
swaps.
More swaps.
Yeah. The whole thing was swaps at the end, man. Like the whole thing was just unbearable swapping.
So it sounds like or seems like T1 initiated this swap meta, or it was understood from the beginning that this was like the end game secret ace in the hole kind of mentality, perhaps. And then, like you said, you're kind of pigeonholed. But it's interesting that if T1 initiated and beat G2 on that front, they try to do the same against Billy. Billy's able to execute it better, at least to the degree where they win 3-2 in the overall series.
Yeah, it's just about getting past the point of like where you can actually scale in the game. Because if you're not scaling, like then what's the point of lane swapping? But for the most part, anytime that you're actually gonna lane swap, you're literally just scaling like the whole time.
Right.
So.
And like that's the hidden depth. I'm going to say that like air quotes a little sarcastically, but also truthfully, the hidden depth of League of Legends or other MOBAs, true MOBAs, where you do have that level up system. You do have the little hidden mechanics and really it's all about scaling and power and like being able to overpower those towers. And
it's one thing, just like a lot of other games. Don't fucking die. Don't look at the gray. Don't see the gray screen. Just don't die. Even if you're not getting gold, you can still get experience to stay in the game. And like, that's really like, it's just not dying. Not dying allows you to do everything in the game.
Right. I always like to put it as dead rabbits don't reproduce. It's something that I learned in science class in like elementary school, and it stuck with me. And it's like a whole genealogy passing traits down. You can do more if you don't die. Basically, that's what it comes down to.
I can breed more rabbits if I don't have dead rabbits. This is sick.
Well, if you put it that way, Nick, thanks.
Yeah, no, it's like, dude, it's a morbid thing. Yeah. Dead rabbits don't reproduce no matter how hard you try, Billy.
I think my science teacher was kind of going with like, if you have longer ears or bigger paws, they get passed down. The ones who don't pass it down. And that's not quite this, but it is this, where if you're alive, you can do more. But anyway, Billy stays alive in the lower bracket, comes back for the rematch here against Gen G, finaling out to a 3-1. Gen G going 4-0 in this tournament.
Yeah, I said like Chobi's great, man. Like they have a lot going for their team. But Chobi is kind of where Faker used to be. Like Faker is the greatest League of Legends player to ever exist, and Chobi is probably the best mid laner. I don't know. I talked him up before the whole thing even started. Chobi's great. He's the guy that I watch in mid lane. I don't really watch High Down Bush videos. And that's Faker's League of Legends name in case for you, Billy. I don't watch hide on bush games. Sometimes I do, but it's more like clips of like, look at this robot. Like, he's so good. He's such a robot. Like, I'm not even joking, dude. Like, you'll have a clip and he's like, his whole screen is filled with garbage. And then someone throws a move at him and he can't even see it. And he just counters it. And it's like, look at the robot. Just look at the, like, he's very good at the game. But Chovy he's pristine right now. He's absolute diamond, bro. And it shows how well he did.
I know you've talked about Chovy a bunch. You've clarified the right way to pronounce his name, Chovy, correct? Not Chuby? Chovy. And that's my lack of knowledge experience with League of Legends, but Chovy's a world champion here at MSI.
V. With a V, like Team Venture?
Chovy. I keep messing up. Anyway, dude, he's getting paid. He's getting paid pretty big because if we go into if it's going to show, there we go. That's a bit better. We go into the prize pool for this. It was a total prize pool of $250,000. Genji Esports, Chovy pulling away 50 grand as a team, 20% of the total prize, and they're automatically qualified to Worlds 2024. So we'll definitely see them at the end of year tournament. I believe in November, Nick, October or November.
Chinese money? Is this in yuan?
No, it's in USD, dude. It even says USD.
50. I know. I'm making a joke, dude. $50,000 to travel to Chengdu. Like, you're out of your mind for me to make $6,000. They're not getting $10,000. They made like $6,000, and they were there for like a month. $6
grand plus whatever else their contracts are, and like that's it. Obviously, when we go into this stuff, it all depends on what their specific contracts and their prize splits with the teams. When you have an organization too, how the prize is split and trickle down. Some organizations pay the players up front. Some incentivize more about wins. Right, so that we can look into and try to see a bit more specifically. But
it's
the team,
like soccer.
It is, yeah, dude. Like you paved the way. If Chovy's as good as you're saying he is, and like can pull that sort of influence, he might end up getting his own Major League Soccer team in the U.S. here. Kind of pull some sort of contract strings like Messi.
Chovy is that good. First off, he is that good. But also, like, he should be in commercials. He should be in like a Mazda commercial. Like, because Faker got a Mazda commercial. But
okay, I was about to say, like, you're talking about awkward video game kids going into like high funding commercials.
Faker had a car commercial recently.
I hear you typing, so I bet you're going to find it for some proof. But yeah, I've seen like Summit and maybe Shroud and Ninja do some commercials, but there's always this air of awkwardness. From my sort of point of view, I remember when Super and Sinatra from the San Francisco Shock went onto the Tonight Show, and that was crazy to see them interact with Jimmy Fallon and try to be the face to like engage just sort of any sort of press in sort of a normal sort of way. So like, it's such a weird boundary to cross because you too easily end up like those Kia hamsters.
Yeah, no, I mean, he is also at one point was like a League of Legends sponsor. Yeah. So they were there was like a lot of commercials that they would put on. Like there were some good commercials. They did some fun stuff with it. But yeah, Faker got a Mercedes-Benz. He had a Mercedes deal. Like he did a commercial for Mercedes, which is crazy.
That is nuts. Yeah. Mercedes commercial. You wouldn't think that, but I know like we're starting to see a lot of crossover, a lot more notoriety where the money's going to follow in that stuff. But there really needs to be a sense of sincerity for these brands. As somebody who's worked in professional marketing on major projects with major brands, like you're going to start seeing. You got to start seeing that.
See if you can pull that one up. It's beautiful. Like how tough they look on screen.
Oh, you sent in a direct message. Let me.
Yeah.
Oh wow, big tough boys. Let me copy link.
It's beautiful, man. Like Faker's amazing. I love this sort of shit. Like he like Faker's awesome in the fact that like he did one thing that he's never, like, he does these things like one-offs, and then he just like never does them again. Like,
Saying like this commercial.
Yeah, like he's never gonna do another car commercial for no reason. He just did it. And like, they were like, "Hey, Faker and the boys, we need you to do this." And so like, and this is like 2023.
So recent, yeah.
Yeah. So like he gets like a nice Mercedes and stuff.
Yeah, I think it plays into the whole, like we're saying, the crossover. We're starting to see gaming culture, like competitive gaming culture, in a more serious manner, almost like traditional sports. You're seeing like Caitlin Clark obviously do all the things, and a lot of media is talking about her and what's happening. And like there's pros and cons with it, and like cause and effects and asterisks around all these things. So like we see Faker doing a Mercedes commercial. Who's going to be the next video game personality, esports professional player to do something on this high level of scale notoriety? Probably not. Faker is Faker. Was this right after they won or something?
I don't know. This is like May last year, so like around this time. No, okay. They might have won like their thing. I can't remember.
All right, because sometimes it's associated with like a big sponsor for a tournament, so they do a big fanfare with it. But that's nonetheless pretty cool. Lot going on. Let's take a look at the rest of the prize pool here. The split. Billy walked away with 40 grand for spending a month in China, in Chengdu. T1 30 grand, G2 25, and then 5th, 6th Team Liquid and Top Esports pulling 20k, and Fnatic and PSG pulling 15k for their quote unquote performances. I know PSG did a decent job. It was a lot of fun. They didn't really win any maps or rounds, but they were a lot of fun to watch, and walking away with 15 grand. I don't know how that feels or what that does, but yeah, they're a Vietnamese team too, right?
Yeah, I believe they were the Vietnamese team, PSG. Yeah, they did awesome. They did really, really awesome, and 16,000, is great for them. But I wanted them to get extra spots. Like I felt like if you took like top 8 as like a non-top 4 region, you should have got like an extra spot for Worlds.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we were talking about that, where it's like you have extra people coming in, you have more representation if they made the record or the qualifying points of the situation. But yeah. Yeah, I'm just checking. Otherwise, MVP, I don't think we really need to talk about it. There's a pretty overall great tournament, barring the last 3 or 4 matches, like lane swapping, making it boring specifically for you. But it seems to be a bigger case against players, a lot of frustration. So we'll see how that goes. Overall, great event, a pretty solid prize pool with a solid showing of teams and strategies and play. A lot of excitement. Any final thoughts on your end about this tournament before we move into our next subject?
No, just we'll have to see what happens with lane swapping for the most part.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens, but who knows?
Yeah. I think at this point we're gonna jump into just kind of talking about what's it called, the new hero shooter, the hero arena shooter from Valve. I gotta change up one of the scenes real quick as we talk here, but let me go into browsing, and then I'll edit this. But Valve's got a new hero shooter, Overwatch style, reportedly, and there we go. That's not great. Valve's new hero shooter in a Overwatch style called Deadlock, and that's interesting because I think they've got some screenshots from a Twitter account, and we've got some talk about the name, etc. So Valve's new hero shooter. Let's run through the article here. It's a reporter published a video on YouTube claiming he is currently in a closed alpha of a game called Deadlock, competitive game that Gabe, follower, is ended up sharing a bit more on this. So let me get out of studio mode and let me make sure Twitter's safe, because we don't want any sort of crazy Twitter bombs on this first.
Yeah, I don't have a hobby at Twitter.
I'd rather not just get insta banned because of some crazy Twitter thing. Okay, back into this.
Like Caitlin Clark something. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on with any of that.
So apparently some of the testers have been sharing some of the screenshots for this game. We'll go back into the article, but here we can just kind of see a straight up instant look at the game. Hero shooter abilities. We've got aiming. In a little bit, you'll see it kind of gives me a bit more of a Valorant hero shooter kind of style vibe, but the article is claiming it's like an Overwatch-esque. But I guess people also criticize Valorant by saying it was, you know, an Overwatch-esque game of CS:GO.
I already feel it. Like I already had pretty strong opinions on the Marvel one. I could already there's no shot that this is going to be popular.
Well, it is a closed alpha. It's hard to like sort of ultimately tell sentiment and feeling.
It's just the art and the colors just don't work. It's like a Fortnite mixed with Overwatch, and the colors aren't vibrant enough. So it gives me like a oh my god, what was that one Halo clone that like everybody was jazzed about, and the game just like it just looked exactly as you could say it. It just didn't pop on the screen. That's
the
how
only thing I'm thinking of is like the only thing I'm thinking of is like older games, and I don't think it was Shadowrun. Definitely not Shadowrun. No,
it's like Shadowrun is the precursor to Overwatch, my man. That was
I know Shadowrun's pretty solid.
But no, it was like Split or something like that. But anyway, yeah, like I don't know, I just like the colors just don't look right. Which usually leads to like, you know, the player, like it looks not as vibrant as Overwatch, but the style of the map looks like Overwatch. And then the characters themselves already look like they're Fortnite characters.
Yeah.
And it'll probably be like a third person shooter, which I think hero shooters need to be third person shooters.
Really?
But yeah, I think they work a lot better that way.
Well, I think you touched on a lot of interesting points with this. Overall, we're seeing a lot of hero shooters come out now, and in a kind of era where you wouldn't think, like 2016 is when Overwatch won Game of the Year. I think it was the first shooter to win Game of the Year, and that's like what, almost 10 years ago, 8 years ago at this point. And now you have Marvel coming out. It's doing a closed alpha not closed alpha, an open closed alpha. So it's all over the place right now. Valve is announcing they're doing a closed behind the scenes alpha test with just like testers. So it's interesting. A lot of developers are choosing to make this style of game right now, whereas like you talk to any Overwatch player or anybody in the video game scene a year ago, 2 years ago, when these projects would have started, at least they would say like, you know, this game is dead. Like, don't even bother. Don't even go for it.
I mean, it's like interesting, right? Like, what's wrong with Overwatch? Like, it's Overwatch. Like, what's wrong with Overwatch? Like, I'm sure there's like things to tweak, but overall, is there anything that's glaring to be like, damn, this game is trash? And like, that's kind of not the case for like Blizzard games in general. I'm not gonna like you know, no Diddy, but like, this is like absolutely
cough, Hearthstone, cough. Cough, cough. Heroes of the Storm, cough.
I don't play Hearthstone, and Heroes of the Storm actually is like a fine game. It's just not good enough. Like, these are fine games. They're just not good enough. So like, what's wrong with Overwatch that this is going to solve?
I really enjoyed Heroes of the Storm. I just think it's such a hill to climb for League of Legends or any sort of like competition in that sense, because you've got Dota and League of Legends, and like those fan bases are just going to be no, because it's not the thing I love. Like, they're very territorial in that sense, and it's not an attack or a judgment, but I think that like Heroes of the Storm failed because it was competing with League, not because it was League, but because of like the community, basically. Overwatch didn't really have that. And I think I love Overwatch. I'm the Overwatch guy in this podcast. We'll talk about a bunch of other games that we both love, but like, you know, that's kind of more our sections, our expertise on that. Speaking with that here, then wouldn't that make the challenge of these games like a Marvel Rivals or Deadlock, or Valve developing Deadlock or Team Fortress 3, wouldn't that make their challenge to kind of just meet it? Because like we had Paladins before, we had a couple other ones. Actually, you brought up a good point earlier. We were discussing this in pre-production. I'm gonna get that site up, but there's also a game called Nyan Heroes where
Nyan Heroes is fun. It's not as good as like Overwatch, but it is an early access game. The art style's fine. The colors are fine. You can see what I'm saying, right? Like, look at the colors. Like, the colors are engaging for people who like to play video games, just in general. Like, all the other colors in the Marvel one, in the Valve one, they're all muted. It's not engaging. It makes it feel like boring sometimes, you know?
It's a little bit lifeless.
Yeah, like right here, he's just jumping at people, and you're like, that still looks pretty fucking cool, like, you know. And this is like an Overwatch clone, but it is, again, it's like a third person shooter. I think any hero shooter or in general hero game works better as a third party, but you know, that's my opinion.
Right. And like to the topic of like a third party game, third person game, not third party game.
Yeah, my bad.
To the topic of a third person game, I think it's fine, but the controls need to really feel good, really feel smooth. I like third person games like Gears of War. I wasn't a super fan of, but they had really great controls when it came to like traversing and competitive gaming and shooting. And that's one that I think
work. That A button didn't work in that game. It was like absolute monster of a button in Gears of War. It was real smooth hitting that A button. You up against the wall, A button. You're trying to get to another wall, A button. You're trying to dash and ride along a wall, A button. That shit, like, it cooked. It was
100%, dude.
I had to replace my controller because I hit that A button so much.
I have a friend in Cali. Shout out Colby if you're watching. I don't think you are, but I have a friend in Cali who was like semi-pro with it, top of the ladder always, and was in some tournaments. Never took it to the next stage. I think partly because of he was like 13 at the time. But dude, he had to buy so many controllers because he destroyed the A button.
Yeah, like that game. Dude, it held that game together, man. It was great. It was a good game.
And like it didn't feel bad when it did that, because I know some games will. I remember Brink. Brink was a game I was really into and traversing, like Mirror's Edge, a lot of parkour, a lot of climbing, etc. And like Halo Infinite more recently, that's another game where he's like trying to, vault a barrier or a little small wall, or kind of just, prop yourself against it. Like, it doesn't feel as good as some of these other things, and Gears of War was able to do a good job. So my whole point here is that a game like Nyan Heroes or like Marvel Rivals with the third person point of view, you need to have smooth controls. You need to have tight, good controls. It's hard to tell for something like Nyan Heroes here because it is a closed early access, not closed. It's an early access alpha sort of build. So they're just looking to develop the game and get it out there. But this looks like a lot of fun. Going back into the Valve thing, like you said, excuse me real quick, going back to the Valve game, you know, there's less of an excitement because it's more muted. It's more realistic tones and stuff. And that's a definite art choice. And maybe that's what they're going for because they develop games in this sort of manner and they like the idea of CSGO. Maybe they're hitting that demographic a bit more, whereas Marvel Rivals was definitely trying to hit like a world market, maybe an Asia market, Pacific market. But sorry, go ahead, man.
Nah, man, I don't think CSGO players are the ones that you want to bring. Like, yo, we're gonna get like some smoke clouds and shit in this game. We're gonna bring down airstrikes. They're not those players. Like, they're not looking for like funky nonsense, random shit in their game at all. Like, at all. They want to know that they can shoot really far away, very accurately if they stand still and shoot their weapon. Like, so like. They're not the crowd to really like pull in. Like Valorant took like a few people from it, but even then, like I don't like how Valorant moves. I would love to see Apex like just package their engine up and just start selling it out to people. And I'd like Overwatch to do the same thing. I think Blizzard is an idiot for trying to keep making Overwatch instead of just selling that engine and letting everybody give us like great games.
But like that's like of course proprietary information. Say that 5 times fast. That's of course proprietary information. The Blizzard Activision, now Microsoft, is going to hold on to that. They might distribute it amongst themselves, sell it to the same companies within Microsoft world, but they're not going to give it to like Riot. They're not going to sell it to Riot for regardless of how much money it is, because it's like
use it for Halo.
What's that?
Grab it and use it for Halo.
Absolutely, I'm with that.
Just use these cool engines, man. Like Apex is great. Like Apex engine, the way that it works, how smooth it is. Like, that's why I have like really no faith in like in this Valve one. This is the first time I'm seeing these screenshots, and I'm telling you, it's the exact opposite of like a person who was imagining Team Fortress.
Well, even like, yeah, sorry to jump in, but even with that, this is the first time a lot of people are seeing it. Like, not just because of our audience and we're sharing with our wonderful audience, mirror, like and subscribe, but it's also because it's like first time it's out. It really just released and leaked this week, and like you can see the specific details that they're trying to do. Even like this cable car wiring up here, whatever they're trying to do on the high rise, they're more focused on the details here. But that's a lot more visual clutter. So maybe they are looking for like that precision mentality, which may or may not hurt the game, like we're talking about. In a hero shooter, you want wacky stuff.
Lucio? Is this just like air gear, and everybody's Lucio, and you get to ride the lightning on the power lines and stuff like that? Like that's what
maybe
like
it's how the payload. Maybe it's how a payload or something pushes through. Because then, if we go back to the fourth screenshot here, a couple of the things is you have all the different terrain things, and that feels very Overwatch-esque. You have the high wires here, and you've got the green neon thing walking through it. Like, I don't know if that's like a pathing for the hero or a pathing for the payload, kind of like pointing you this direction. Here we go. But then you also have in the top right here, talking about lanes. And I know Overwatch, we have lanes, but it's more so considered routes than lanes. Lanes is something you talk about more in CSGO and League of Legends and Valorant, where it's like, okay, here's a subway side, here's, side B, gate A, door A kind of things, and like, obviously, League of Legends is a lot simpler, top lane, bottom lane, mid lane, and then jungle. And it's pretty uniform in that way. So I'm curious by those three things that I just spotlit. The map design is kind of Overwatch-esque, but then you have this floating neon wire color thing happening. Is that what's going on there? And then you have this map with colors kind of orienting you, telling you what's going on, which way to go. And they're calling it lanes, saying they have 4 different lanes to get to this midpoint. So like, big question marks. I'm sure somebody's talked about it online, and if somebody knows, leave it in our comment. We'll take a look at it. We'll do our expert analysis, but it's interesting to see how this goes, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of friction points it runs into, because I agree with you where it's like the color palette was the first takeaway I had, and it feels muted and dull. And like that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it could be a targeted thing, and that could be boring.
If Jubilee would look stupid in your hero shooter, Jubilee the X-Men. If Jubilee the X-Men would look stupid in your hero shooter, it's going to suck. That's guaranteed. And Marvel can take that to heart right now. Because if Jubilee looks stupid in their game, like with all the colors and the fancy stuff, like if that looks stupid on the muted backdrop, it's going to be rough. Like I really want nothing more than these games to actually like just be really good and solid. And by the way, the game was called Splitgate.
Splitgate. I remember Splitgate.
Yeah. Splitgate was a Halo clone. That was like cool, but it just wasn't. It just didn't do enough. It added portal mechanics to Halo. Like it's like, what was wrong with Halo? Well, in their opinion, nothing, except for you just lack portals. Like, so like that's what I'm saying. Like, what's wrong with Halo? I mean, what's wrong with like Overwatch, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are they going to solve? What problem is the player base seeing that they're going to solve?
Or another question to look at it, and like this is one a lot of YouTubers or social media people kind of struggle with. It's, what is my niche? Why would people choose me over somebody else? Especially when you have an established game like Overwatch. Why would they choose me? Marvel Rivals, it's pretty straightforward. We already said it. Even if it's not a great game, people are going to play it because it's Marvel IP. It's going to be Disney backed. You're going to love it because you get to be the Spider-Man kind of
cash grab. Just straight cash grab. There is no doubt in my mind that game is going to release with 2 different battle passes, 58 different skins that you can buy, like right off the top.
And they're definitely going to have like a mobile version. Definitely going to have a mobile version on top of the PC and like console versions. And then you've got Deadlock, which is still like alpha and stuff. Hopefully they get a change. What are you giggling about there, man? What are you giggling about?
As soon as your game goes to mobile, it's not a fucking game anymore. It's a mobile game. As soon as your game is on mobile, it's a mobile game. It's not a game anymore.
Yeah, man, but you're saying
it's balanced. It's just like, I'm telling you right now, like that's why like Pokemon Unite can never be a PC or a console competitive game, because it's on mobile. Like you're just splitting your player base for no reason. Like it's just like Overwatch playing on computer versus playing on the Xbox, and I can't use a keyboard and mouse. It's just splitting your player base. Wow, they all love doing it, but I don't know.
So like, I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree that there's a lack of competitiveness, a true competitiveness when you get to like a mobile, because it's hard to like to not police it, but just like kind of, you know, corral it into like a true competitiveness. Pokemon Unite, except for something that might be the only exception, but you know, it doesn't matter, because once you go to mobile, you're going for the cash grab like we're talking about here. I think Pokemon Unite also struggles with the fact that it's Pokemon. Pokemon doesn't want to take things that seriously to a degree where all these sweaty gamers want to. They want it to be accessible. They want it to be accessible to a lot of people, so they'll go with the cash grab over the competitiveness every day. Even if it's a 50-50 split, it's still not going to be competitively viable, but it's going to make money, and like people are going to play it in a serious enough a way. That's
fine, but then we can't call them esports. You just can't call them esports. But yeah, no, it's a definite money grab, just in general. But like, I'm in a firm belief that it's just like, as soon as your game is like, you're trying to sell me on like mobile game. Oh, well, you could play some when you're like on the go and you just got a couple minutes to do something. Like, no, like there's other things that I can do with my time on my phone, like and stuff, you know?
Yeah. Sorry, I was just queuing up a little bit of Marvel Rivals. I'm going to bring that back up in just a second. Turn the music back on. There we go. Because yeah, this site, oh my God, I'm trying to go to this site and it's already blaring a bunch of different like, hey, look at this. And like, obviously this is a leaked image of Deadlock, but here is a revealed trailer. Like, this is a much different, it's a little bit more pop to it for sure. A little bit more vibrancy alongside the IP of all the cool dudes that you get to play. I got into closed alpha. I did enjoy the game. It was a lot better than I thought, but I did run into the same sort of control problems. And again, it's a closed alpha. It's the first iteration a public has gotten to play with it. So I hope they tighten up the experience of that third person aiming system, because I think that could kill the competitiveness. People will get good at it, but you know, it doesn't matter. And like, you have this anime vibrancy of these characters that happen. So I want to just show this as a spotlight to contrast what's happening in Deadlock a little bit to the point. Because like, even here, pausing, this is Valhalla. It's not Valhalla. I can't remember. I'm not going to try to, but right now, what's up?
The map looks good. The characters look out of place in this game. Like, the characters are the biggest like problem with the game. Like, look at Spider-Man. Damn, that's a good looking Spider-Man. Like,
well, I think I paused it. I do think I paused it where he's getting a buff right now, or he's doing a power up. So like, he does, but again, alpha. I've played some alphas. Yeah, I've played some alphas, tested some alphas before, and like, there just be the checkered boxes floating around kind of things, no texture and stuff. So like, credit where's credit's due on this. Is a pretty solid. It's a live alpha testing. They're going to go for like an early access, I'm assuming. But like, either way, yeah, I feel the backgrounds look solid, super sick. I do feel like the characters are a little bit floaty. I think, to your point or my point, I feel like they might be they need to be more vibrant, or you feel like they need to be more vibrant in Rivals at least?
Their whole character models are off. Their character models aren't good for this game. Like your animation, character models are fine when you're like looking behind it, but like, look when she goes up, when like hell is bombing down on people, even right here, it doesn't look good, right? Like, the abilities look fine. Look at Strange. That looks awful. That looks awful. Like, it's just the way the characters move. It looks like they're put on the map and they're not in the map.
Yeah. Okay. So actually, honestly, that's some of the feedback I provided in a couple of the surveys I did with the closed alpha. Everything feels floaty. Everything feels like you're ice skating. Like, and it does look like you're ice skating, like you're saying, like you're not part of the environment. There's no step, no footprint to your step. It's just that you're like floating, moving while you're doing the animations. Again, closed alpha, so I'm not like too critical on that. I would like to see that updated as they get to an actual release, even if it's an early access beta release. But I agree with you on that one, and I get that point with it. Just like lessons to learn if we talk about the Deadlock. Yeah, what's up?
Just like look at that, like look at that information on the screen. Like, so you're gonna have to fix all of that.
Well, yeah, and I know like UI is one of the easiest things to fix, and Overwatch specifically had so many different iterations of the UI when they're in beta into release, and then even after release, they've done so many different small changes that you don't even realize until you look at a video from like a year, 2, 3, 4, etc. Each interval, you can see a dramatic change. But anyway, not to go total shill on that.
It just looks like they're blending in, right? Like they're kind of like melting into the map almost. Like a person who's colorblind is going to have a real hard time with this.
Hi,
but
me. I'm colorblind.
And like it does remind, like it looks like, you know, Overwatch, except they're comfortable with your character just getting lost in the sauce, which is like
again, Alpha. I gotta stop stuttering. I'm not being a shill. I'm sorry to be a little bit of voice of reason.
Relax.
The last time I'm going to say it, it's an alpha. I want that to change. I want to see that change, but that is very
beta.
I want to see the beta. Give me the beta. But that's a very, very astute criticism of that, and I agree with you on that. We talked a bunch about the Valve game. We talked about a bunch about the Valve game. We've kind of talked about what we'd like to see happen with the Valve game or with other hero shooters, and how it is interesting how we're seeing a almost explosion of hero arena shooters happening in this manner. Any final thoughts you want to touch on that we didn't get to fully explore?
Apex, get in on this shit. Like, Apex, get in on it. You got you'll beat everybody. I firmly believe that if they made like an Overwatch style game, they would probably just end up like winning in general.
Dude, we were saying that last week when we were talking about Apex and like how awesome it would be. And I did finally get to see that clip of the hacker dropping in like 60 bots on a dude. Zombie tower defense mode, amazing for that game. And then arena shooter like that. Use the characters you already have, plop them in, and just have it like 5v5 in like a section of the map. I'm sure if like somebody's doing mods, they could do it themselves and just kind of test it out. It'd be amazing. That engine is so chef's kiss. Titanfall, amazing. Not the best story, pretty solid story. A lot of fun to play, but like that engine was.
It's good enough to make me think that I need to go back and play Titanfall 2. I haven't, but it's a good game. It's almost got me. It's almost got me to play Titanfall 2. I'm not going to do it. I'm not doing it.
Titanfall 2 though, dude, man. Titanfall 2 was a solid competitive game, let alone the PvE stuff. So like even if you want to go into comp PvP or just casual PvP, it was a very solid game. And the movement was really what made that game a lot of fun. And like it comes down to that engine, man, the engine and the physics.
Yeah. I mean, I also would, you just made me think of this, but like I really would enjoy more PvE stuff. That isn't not the Overwatch style. Like I like a small story of like PvE stuff. Like Overwatch stuff is like cool when they do like the PvE things. But I think like a lot of these games would be like super fun. Like I think Apex and Overwatch could have like a nice Destiny-esque campaign. But like, you know, they're like, it makes no money. And it's like, attach skins to it. Like, I don't know what to tell you, dude. Like you're afraid it's not going to make money. Do something, and then add skins to it, and then you'll make all your money back.
We'll see if EA does it. They have the opportunity, but I think Blizzard has squandered the Overwatch opportunity unless it comes out as something completely different. Because I think Bobby Kotick sold that out real fast, real hard, and like. I can't say from personal experience. I can't say from personal experience, but I definitely have seen a lot of people talk about it from personal experience, and there's fingers to point and blame on that. And like, it's such a missed opportunity. Even seeing an Apex Legends or Overwatch anime series like Riot's done with Arcane.
Speaking of Riot, they actually shut down their MMO.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that. Yeah, they just just canceled it, went back to the drawing board, and everybody was
I know they stalled it out and they're gonna like regress it back, but yeah, a bigger conversation, a wholly different topic. But we're gonna move into another different topic, but kind of related. If you're ready for it, Nick,
let's do it.
I'm just looking for the go sign. Let's go. We're talking about Overwatch Collegiate Championship happened this past weekend. Here are the competitors. Some names you don't know, some names you do know. Winthrop, Northwood, Maryville, as well as Rutgers, our Scarlet Knights. I know we have connections to Rutgers here in New Brunswick. Not too far from either of us, but good old New Jersey school, Illinois State, Grand Canyon, Fisher Fines, Fisher College. Fisher had a lot of representation, but anyway, a lot of life here in the Overwatch scene in a college sense, which is amazing to see.
Yeah, Washington. University of Washington needs to put on notice. Y'all need to be put on notice. They know exactly what I'm talking about if they're watching this.
Are you trying to say their mascot's a furry?
That's sussy as fuck, man. Like that's some sussy shit.
You know what's funny? They could be using the school's mascot, so it might not even be associated with like an esport thing.
Nah, get Sonic Fox in here. He could definitely help us out. That shit that looks like somebody pays for a mask on that. But anyway. Going
into the results, we're going to jump in. We're not even bothering with the bracket. It was exciting to watch. It's good to see that the overall collegiate scene for Overwatch is alive. We are seeing some double dipping from the OWCS into collegiate or vice versa, but it's amazing to see. Illinois State ended up taking the win over Maryville in the grand finals here, bringing $25,000 back to the school or the players. I'm not sure how that goes because I know the NCAA just changed rules where players any sports and competitive in school can make money. They're not going to be banned from it. And that's been a long time coming. So it's cool to see. It's cool to see that Illinois continuing a bit of dominance. I know they struggled a little bit from watching it, but congratulations to them. Congratulations to Maryville and the Northwood. A top three that you'd almost expect with their former Overwatch pros. Any takeaways off the bat here? Not really an event that you were too involved with, Nick. I know we were talking about it, but like you are seeing some names that are familiar with. Any thoughts? You muted yourself again because of coughing, man.
Yeah, I'm familiar with three names. Illinois State and Maryville. Good for them. No, I didn't watch this, but like it's always awesome whenever I just realized somebody up there was named Snowden. Anytime that like these colleges are doing this, it's like always really, really cool for players to know to go to one of these schools, right? Literally, it's just another pull for them to, grab people to come spend money, get a college degree.
And like
play video games along the way.
You look at Fisher here. Fisher's got the same icon. They've got 3 teams representing themselves. Are they that good? Probably. They competed, they qualified. Or is it just like, but they've got Fisher College, Fisher Freaks, and Fisher Fines. Fines, I think, is a bird. But either way, it's cool to see that they might be clubs. They might have a roster of 15 people that they're splitting into 3. Whatever it might be, there's enough of a demand.
They hate each other.
You think, there's a rivalry?
It's just a whole war in the school. And instead of calling like the Fisher Freaks, they call them like the Fisher Fucks. Which is like, get out of here, guys. Like, we're going to beat you. No, it's crazy. Like, how many players is that total? Right? Well, like, do they have any substitutes and shit for each team?
Yeah, at the very least, you have to field 15. So you're talking about 15 to 20-ish, depending on what the school, I guess,
and would they just drop? Like, let's say, do they have like enough substitutes? And like, let's say Fisher College, right? If one of their players can't play, are they just allowed to just steal the Fisher Freaks?
I mean, it's ultimately just onto the college sort of like regular rules. So I wouldn't doubt that. Basically overall, the point we're making a little bit of fun of, having fun with, is that there's a big demand. There's a lot of players there. College scene seems to be alive. They've got some vibrancy of it. There's got some money involved, some notoriety. You're competing against former Overwatch pros. You're learning from former Overwatch pros directly, playing with them, playing against them. So a lot of cool things happening here. I think a big takeaway for this, like I said, is like looking towards the college scene is going to be the way to move forward.
Is there how many Big Ten teams play esports? Like Rutgers part of the Big Ten, right?
Yeah. That I don't think we've kind of seen them go into the packs. I think that's more of an old school, archaic sort of for football and like hierarchy lineage of things. As far as Big Ten goes, I think because like you talk about college basketball, college football, it's so hard to delineate who's better than who, because it all comes down to tournament invitations, and then really Big Ten just means you're the Big Ten people who get the most money because you have the bigger sponsorships, because you draw the biggest audience on TV, you sold the biggest broadcasting contracts.
So they have it though. It's called the Big Esports Conference, and there's an article 2023 in September, so not that long ago, and it's literally like for its inaugural esports season, the Big Esports Conference will feature competitions in Overwatch 2, Rocket League, Smash Brothers, Ultimate, and Valorant.
And that's not an unusual thing, because they literally do the same thing already right now, like with football or with any other like sport, wrestling, gymnastics. The colleges in a certain conference or division are going to compete across the board with that. So esports is a new realm. They're starting to develop that. I wouldn't doubt that it's the same. I would question the validity or the competitive integrity of it for right now, because it probably feels more for show than for anything else. But if I'm interested to hear what you have to say on that.
No, I mean, probably just for them to get out, right? Like get out and like just say, hey, we have it. And then if they want to, if they see it as a nice venture, they'll go into it. Yeah.
No, that's a fair point. And we want to see more of it, of course, because this is going to be the foundation of competition moving forward, especially for an Overwatch who had a professional league, try to franchise it. And then the developer's like, nah, because of sketchiness, the same sketchiness we talked about before. But yeah, this is going to be the way forward for stuff like that. It might be the most sustainable way forward as well.
It's also interesting that this article was done. Was it done before that? I'm moving out of my own frame. Was this article was done in September 2023? Was this before Nintendo set the new rules and the new standard for Super Smash Brothers, where you have to go through that for everything that's worthwhile?
So yeah, I just got the link from you. Let me see if I can bring it into better frame for us. Here we go. It was written in September. I believe that Nintendo rule thing dropped in October or November. I remember them talking about it we're only 6 weeks away from one of the biggest tournaments in December. And Hungrybox was upset. I think this was slightly before, but it might have been something. Dude, since I went to Rutgers back in, I'm not going to say, since I went to Rutgers, there's been Smash clubs. Not that kind of Smash club. There's been Super Smash Bros. Clubs, Melee, Brawl, Ultimate clubs that you can go play, compete in. Tournaments. The clubs would hold tournaments that would bring in regional talent as well as national talent. Some of the bigger schools, I remember going to Penn State in Pennsylvania, going to Philly to compete. I wasn't good, but I would casually go and compete in those things. So I wouldn't doubt that it didn't matter to these colleges if they kept it more club. But, with new Nintendo's new rules, adding in officially those games would be a good thing.
Right.
Yeah. All the things it brings esports up. I do want to go do a quick, because you did mention it. Let's shout out Reinforce. See if we get some attention on him for here, because you mentioned Mr. Snowden. Overwatch League talent. Reinhardt main, fellow Reinhardt main, fellow strong boy, too strong. See if he gets. Let's see. You and I had some good times Reinhardt main on Hanamura.
Yeah,
so
I like that. I like Ryan.
Yeah. So we're for it. We're for it here. Moving on into the other Overwatch, the bigger Overwatch topic really is that we saw a mid-season patch, a pretty big mid-season patch here. Mid-season patch. I should probably do that when you're talking, but I just don't want to forget it. We saw a really big mid-season patch come after this director's take, basically changing tanks. We saw that tanks were struggling. A lot of player sentiment was that tanks were getting focused by all the abilities from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2. We saw the subtraction of one tank. So going from 2 down to 1, which meant now they're the biggest character on the screen. They're the easiest to shoot. They're the most fulfilling to shoot, because it's hey, I hit that headshot kind of stuff. But also for abilities, nades, sleeps, Discord orbs. They're the biggest target with the biggest reticle to be able to land those things. So, and as a tank, you're the only one controlling the spot, whereas DPS, you have two of them. Healers, supports, you have two of them. You can kind of split the load sometimes, teamwork on that, whereas tank is solo in that case. So developers' take on this was that they agreed and they wanted to see some differences. And specifically, actually, let's just skip ahead into the patch notes, which we've already, you know, if you've been online, you've already kind of seen. We're seeing a big shakeup in specifically, where is it? Armor. They're changing armor from Overwatch 2 armor into Overwatch 1 armor. If you don't know what that means, I'm just going to speak plainly on that. Basically, when they went to Overwatch 2, they gave a percentage reduction to all armor. If you had it, it automatically did this to whatever damage was hit. Just straight up. I think it was 15, 20%, 25% on that. They're reverting it back into Overwatch 1 armor so that if you hit somebody with armor, it'll only reduce the damage by 5 damage. So if I hit you for 100, it'll do 95. If I hit you for 10, it'll do 5. So that's the big change. But then the secondary thing is that tanks now have a passive where its headshot damage is reduced by 25%. And overall, it feels pretty decent. More survivability, just slightly, even though you have this shift of things. I know there's a lot of gears turning in your head, Nick. I can see the smoke coming out your ears. What are your thoughts here on that, on those specific things?
You can pull it back up. I mean, like the headshot thing is like fine, right? Because like as tanks, you're just forced into doing things at certain times, which leaves you open to, you know, just a bunch of headshots and stuff. I'm not sure how much this the flat damage reduction is going to change anything. In general, I really don't know like too much of the damage.
Well, no, you're right, and that was one of the things that was big up in the air because at this point, the season 10 mid patch happened last week. We're a week into it. We've seen sentiment from players, and we've seen a lot of research. And in fact, switching this out real quick, if you're familiar with Cactus Puppy, he's a pretty reputable Overwatch content creator, a pretty reputable part of the Overwatch community. He's a big math guy. He's a big spreadsheet guy. Well, he created a spreadsheet that's going to really tell you the difference of things, what happened, the percentage, and what it's going to do to every...
I have stuff like this for League. Like this is, I'm not even going to look at it. Just help me.
All right.
Like,
so I wanted to switch the screen so we could see it a little bit better, but more or less what we're going to see, the big shot characters like a Pharah where they're shooting one projectile and it's doing like a bunch of damage. Pharah Rocket, I think it does 100 or 120 damage. Reducing 5 from that, not really a nerf. In fact, it's probably a buff compared to the armor before, right? 25%, 30%, much better situation now. Sojourn, same thing. Widow, same thing. But when you get to like a Tracer, Sombra, maybe even a Reaper, Torbjorn, where you have multiple projectiles, like shotgun style, maybe a fast SMG style as well, you're going to see that impact a lot more because those bullets are going to do less damage. They already do less damage than like a Pharah shot or a Widow snipe. But then each individual bullet's going to be impacted while there is armor. So if I have 10 Tracer bullets, they do 6 damage each. 6 minus 5 is 1. Now, they did cap Tracer specifically, so before anybody clocks in on me, or you kind of like go on this, they did cap it at a maximum of 50% of the total damage. So like Tracer's bullets can't go lower than 3 damage each, but that's a fairly significant nerf to Tracer, which I think we both can agree needs that nerf overall. I don't think it really matters because Tracer shouldn't be chasing armored characters, really. Maybe a Brig would be the only one they do chase. They're going after characters. But anyway, you can kind of see what I'm getting at here, where basically scatter projectiles, quick hit scan projectiles, SMGs, assault kind of things, they'll do less damage per bullet, more of an impact.
That's crazy. I see that's just his burn though. Malga's chain burn.
Yeah, so Malga's one that a lot of people feel got really hit by it because he does a lot, but I'm not sure if I think there's the force crit, and it seems like it's still across the board a 30% negative, and I wonder if they're going to patch that out, because you can shoot somebody's foot with Malga while they're burning, and it's a force crit. And I think the way maybe the code is reading it is as a headshot, but I think they've changed that with Orisa specifically, and when he first released. So like, I would like to see maybe that change where he's a force crit, like it doesn't count as a headshot kind of thing, and it doesn't eat up the damage like this.
So Orisa got buffed though.
It looks like
with the chain.
It doesn't look like it was a total buff. I think her javelin was a buff. The impact on the wall is a buff in the green, but it looks like it's a small nerf in sort of reaction of things. Again, it kind of makes sense, but like her projectile bullets isn't super Gatling gun, isn't super SMG assault rifle style. It is still pretty hefty per. Let me know if you want me to swap up. I don't think there's anything too super notable. I think Reinhardt benefits from something like this. Junker Queen benefits from something like this. All right, here's
it's all green, baby.
All green.
Yeah, because he only does stupid stuff. He got a fire strike. We reduced it by 5.
Right, and like this is his damage output. But this isn't even talking about Reinhardt's one of the most armored characters in the game, and this gives Reinhardt another dial to turn, a fader to pull for his power level, because the damage he's going to take is going to be impacted because he's got so much armor on it. I overall feel like it's a good change. Playing some tank this week, it definitely changes a little bit of the meta for the tanks. Rissa's still top dog right now, which is annoying as fuck, but it's been a good change. I don't feel like I instantly blow up, that I have some control in what I do, in what's happening, that I don't just get black hole focused and I'm just dissipated, just like deleted from the server.
And then Roadhog got nerfed for the most part. Rough.
Yeah, the pellet's there, but I think he also benefits. So it's like a weird middle ground because of the crit headshot stuff. He's got one of the bigger head spaces, crits for it. But yeah, like, you know, kind of walking back into the patch notes, really, that was the whole idea of the change. They did have some specific things, so we're not really going to go into. You can take a look at the patch notes and check out other content creators who've done a very detailed, especially when it happened a week ago. I do feel like this is going to impact competitive play. And I didn't get a chance to see the complete meta teams were repping for the college scene this past weekend. I think that was our first indication of that, but we do get to see that happen at DreamHack for Overwatch. OWCS mid-season tournament is happening at DreamHack at the end of this month, May 31st. So I think, well, just very quickly, I know next week I want to break down and do a setup for that. Any thoughts on this patch and the information we kind of presented? Any questions, Nick, for right now that we can try to dive into? Because we are going to do a bigger breakdown next week for what we expect at DreamHack. And maybe we'll have a bit more time to like analyze the meta and see how things feel. But any initial thoughts here?
It's probably not as much of a nerf as people think, because like all those numbers were just based on their damage. So for the most part, all of like the tanks their general survivability went up, and it shifted their damage off of the tanks onto more like DPS need to do more.
Yeah. And like, it doesn't mean you don't shoot the tanks either. It just means you get less value from shooting the tanks, which sentiment wise is exactly what was happening before. It felt really good. It was pretty good just to delete a tank, and the tanks that could survive that, Sigma, Orisa, or a Doom, just to like, you know, jump out of the way, get behind a corner easily, were the ones that were being played.
Yeah, that's not doesn't sound fun for tank players at all. It's like really does not sound fun for them.
It definitely was a hard time, and I, you know, speaking for myself, I didn't have a great time. I'm not the best tank out there, but maybe we refer back to Mr. Snowden, Mr. Johnny Snowden. Reinforce. How was your experience? What are your thoughts here? Hit us up at. What's that?
How often did he get treated like an NPC in the game? Like that's like
as
really
a Reinhardt main,
as tank main.
As a
Like
tank main.
Like, if you're just getting like the only thing you can do is hopefully survive, and the ones that can are the good ones. That sounds like a very awful experience in general.
That mostly was the sentiment across the board, be it your famous Doomfist players, Winston players, the traditional dive players, all the way into the Ramattra and the Reinhardts, the more of the stationary rush comp tanks. But, you know, let's hear what you got to say, Mr. Snowden, or any other tank who wants to jump into the conversation. It's been a week. How has these changes felt? But I think that's kind of it. My thoughts here. I think that's kind of it. We've tapped out all the topics. Any sort of final thing, or what was one of your favorite things this week? This is such a silly question, just a simple, silly question. But like, if you can just like reinforce, calling back to Johnny, if you could reinforce some of the conversation point, one conversation point that we're talking about, what would it be?
What was a good thing?
What was a good thing? What was a bad thing? What's your highlight, low light from this episode that you'd want to spotlight here?
The low light was all except for like one match. League of Legends was miserable for like the last week. It was not good matches except for like one. And I'm being very generous with that. And then like the good thing would just be like, I would just say, I don't have any good stuff related to esports stuff, unfortunately. Unfortunately, all the stuff that I play is unfortunately in the dumpster at the moment.
Spoken like a true gamer, I would have to shout out Chovy. I got the name right, Chovy. MVP in my heart, one of the best. I'm going to be a converted fan now. Lane swapping, probably my low light. Specifics, you know, I don't like the sound of that. I'm a League of Legends noob, but I don't like the way that sounds. Maybe there's an inherent flaw in it. Maybe we'll see changes on it. Maybe there's something that we just don't realize with it. Probably not. But you know, it is what it is.
It's not something you want to copy. And usually
Fair
like
enough.
that's what like pulls a lot of people into esports, right? When you're watching it, it's like, I can do that at home. Like, and no one is going to be like, lane swapping at home, genius. Let's go. Like,
It is a strategy that requires coordination. Otherwise, you're just taking advantage of somebody else, some asshole.
Yeah, you just bully them and tell them like, no, we're here now. We're doing a lane swap. And what are they going to do?
With lane swapping. Mm-hmm.
They can't do anything about it. Like, you're just playing the game. Like, what are they going to report you? Negative attitude? Yeah. I told you to get out of the lane. I'm lane swapping. I'm like, we lane swap? Sorry, man. Two of us decided on it. Like, I don't know what to tell you. But,
right,
yeah.
and that's Riot's challenge in this one. Let's see what they say, what they feel, if they say anything at all. Beyond which, I'm surprised at Deadlock. I'm really excited to see and hear more hero shooters coming out. Marvel Rivals, Nyan Heroes, Deadlock. It's got potential. I like to see it. As somebody who likes Overwatch, I want to see it, but I want good games overall. I want priority on the good games, but yeah. I think that kind of wraps it up for me, Nick. That all for you?
Yeah, no, that's it for me.
Wonderful, man. Thanks for joining me here today, Nick. Appreciate talking with you on this stuff. Appreciate you guys for watching. If you made it all the way this through, thank you. If you do enjoy the stuff, the content, you know what to do. All the internet things, like, subscribe. It really helps us out, and it's free, of course. It costs you nothing, and it really makes the biggest difference for us because it gets these videos to more people. This is the big call to action at the end. I probably should do a couple more of these through, but either way, thank you guys. We'll be here again next Tuesday, like we are every Tuesday, doing the podcast live, Twitch, YouTube. But if your social media is more your thing, check us out there. We're on all the places: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Threads, if you even use Threads, but not many do. But yeah, that's it for us. Thanks for joining us on the Esports Meta, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.